Hello, Lizzie here, and today I'm going to show you how to make Frankie, which is this amazing machine mat just behind me here with the pockets, and it's made from patchwork squares and a little bit of simple quilting. The actual binding is the fabric from the back as well, so we're learning a few techniques today. We're learning how to take the binding from the back or the backing to the front to make your binding, but also how to put some simple squares together and quilt them. So two lovely, very useful techniques. So Frankie is a downloadable pattern on my website, lizzycurtis.com, and it's available there for you all the time, and the link will be below. It's actually a really simple make. It's a nice, easy, quick make, something that you'd really like to perhaps get your teeth into on a Sunday afternoon. And you'll notice it's got a 1-star rating. So we've got the little Lizzy sewing machine there to say it's 1 star. In other words, it's a beginner project, which is absolutely perfect. Now I've skipped forward quite a few parts to get to the main bit where we've got the patchwork, but I just want to first of all show you how to put the patchwork together. Now if you're experienced, you'll know full well how to do this, and I've got the most amazing heap of fabric here, which is just far too delicious for words. It's recycled fabrics. It's kind of like a flannelette fabric as well. It's so super soft. But of course these are all 5-inch squares, so you could use any of your charm packs if you've got them laying about and you don't know quite what to do with them. And you'll need 30 for this project, so it doesn't take up too much of your stash either. So you're literally going to make up initially 12 pairs. So you're going to put 2 pieces right side together. We've got a 1/4-inch seam allowance throughout on this particular project. Now I've got my walking foot on there straight away, only because I'm going to do some quilting, and I might as well have it on to start off with, and I can always take it off later if I need to. So 1/4-inch seam allowance. Now what I would do is, you know you've got quite a few of these to stitch up, so I would chain piece these. So if we do another 2 squares, and all you're doing right sides together, down one side, 1/4-inch seam allowance, and just pop it under your foot and just chain piece. This is such a lovely project to do. Now you'll continue on until you've made 12 of these pairs, okay? So I'll just cut mine off now. I get my little scissors. Now once you've made those pairs, you need to join those pairs together so you've got 4 in a row. So let's just cut those threads there. It's got caught up somewhere on the foot. So we've got 2 pairs there, you can see. So I'm going to join those together, and to make the 5th block, we're just going to add 1 on. It's as simple as that. So you're going to make 12 pairs, join 2 of the pairs together to make like sort of 6 rows of 4, and then you're going to add 1 square on to the end of each. So there's our row of 4, and then we're just going to pick one of the fabrics out, and if you've got some that are repeated, shuffle them about a little bit so you've got them dotted about your fabric. It just makes such a huge difference, and you don't really want them touching. So diagonally is acceptable, but not above each other or next to each other. It just wouldn't look nice. I think you've got all of these squares, you might as well try and sort of mash them about a little bit. So there's our 5th square put on. There we go. And that's what it looks like. So what you're going to do at this point, once you've got all of those done, and you'll have a whole heap of these all done, okay? You're going to take this to the iron, and you're going to iron all these seams across. It doesn't really matter with these fabrics whether you're pressing to the right or to the left, because they're all light fabrics. If you've got some real extremes, lights and darks, then press to the dark side, but I don't think anybody's going to pick you up for it. So you do whatever suits you. So you might want to press all of these to the left. Let's say if you're a right-handed ironer, that's probably what you're going to do. And then when you join your strips together, you'll just top and tail them. So the first row will be like this. The second row you're going to turn, and that way your seams here will be nested. It's just a great way of doing it really quick. So once you've got to that stage, you'll join all those rows together, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now I've already put the wadding on mine, and I've already cut it down, but you don't have to do it. I'm going to talk you through how there's 2 ways you can do this. Okay, it's a small project, so you don't need to worry about overhang. If you were making a massive quilt, you would obviously make your wadding and your backing a lot bigger, 3 or 4 inches I would say, to your actual topper, piece of patchwork. But because this is such a small project, it's not going to move, so I'm going to cut my wadding right down to the edge. So doesn't it look glorious? There we go. Isn't that so pretty? And you can see behind me, let me just turn it go the right way. Let's turn it that way. You can see how that blue looks. And you'll see that because we've made the pockets from the backing, when they come up, you can see that complementary colour. And you wait till you see what I've got lined up for the pink. The other projects actually behind me as well is Flora. And, oh, is it Flora? Is it Freya? No, it's Freya. Freya is here, and it's the machine cover to match Frankie, and then we've got Flora here, which is our 3rd project for the month of February. So if you're watching this immediately, it'll be March to you, it'll be February to my gold ladies, or any other time of the year, but I always do 3 projects together. So these are the 3 projects that I'm making for February. So that's what it looks like, and you'll notice, I want you to have a look here. So I've actually stuck my wadding, I've done a spray, so I'm using 505. You use whatever you can find. It's just a temporary adhesive fabric spray. And I've already glued the wadding and the topper together, but I haven't trimmed this off because I wanted you to see what I do. It's quite simple. I haven't quilted it either. Now, a lot of purists among you will say never quilt until all your layers are put on. But in this case, the backing is actually a 1 inch wide all the way around, 1 inch wider all the way around. Now, once you've quilted that, you'll have quite a bit of difficulty trimming that back to make sure that your topper and your wadding is 1 inch smaller than the backing. So let's make it easy for ourselves, and the actual project is going to be cut exactly to size. I just need to trim this little bit here, and it's very easy to do. Once you put the wadding on and give it, cut it at least an inch bigger than your project, so when you flatten it and smooth it, it will fit the piece of wadding that you've cut. So I've got a fairly long ruler here. It's an 18 inch. You could use a 12, you could use 6, you could use 24, whatever you've got handy. Don't go and buy anything. So this is also a good way of straightening up, so squaring up. So if, for instance, your seams aren't absolutely perfect, and do you know what? It doesn't matter. You can take the time now just to straighten that so it does look absolutely gorgeous when you put the backing on. So if we just trim this down, get a nice sharp blade in your rotary cutter, take it all the way along, and that's our scrap. And what we've left is the quilt top, or the little machine mat top, and you can see that it's beautifully cut, and we've got a lovely straight line there. Now the backing is slightly bigger at the moment. It's a little bit more than 1 inch all the way around, but before we actually sort of cut it and trim it, we want to attach it to the back of this, because we are going to quilt all the way through the 3 layers. So we're going to quilt through the patchwork piece, the wadding, batting, and the backing fabric. And look, I've got some gorgeous small check gingham fabric to go on the back. Now this is not quilting weight cotton. I haven't sort of stuck to the rules. I'm using a very gorgeous French cotton here. It's so soft and fine. It's absolutely beautiful, and I think it goes really well, doesn't it, with my piece of patchwork. And because it's a check, a gingham, it goes with the patchwork design. So I'm going to spray adhesive these 2 layers together now. So the layers are the quilt top and the backing. And I'll just move the machine out of the way so we've got a little bit of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my backing down. Now normally I would stand up to do this. Now I know you're not going to be able to see a lot of this at the moment. I could start off at this way and come back, but I might as well just do it so it's comfortable for me. Lay this over the top, and I'll show you in a sec so you're not sort of missing out on anything. Like I said, this is a little bit bigger than an inch wide all the way round. Now, because it's gingham, I could be a perfectionist and look at the squares and get them lined up, but I'm not going to. It would drive me crazy. So I'm just going to go with it and be relaxed about it. So if I bring that back and show you, can you see that it is just slightly bigger all the way around? So once you've got it in a position that you're happy, it's fairly equal all sides, what you're going to do is spray the wadding or the batting. So you're going to spray a little bit. My goodness, that is a little bit. Do a bit more. And just lay that down. Okay. And then once you've got that stuck down, and you're happy with how that looks, bring all the rest up, and everybody will have a different way of doing this. And I'm just going to spray my, I want to make sure you can see, I'm just going to spray my wadding here. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot. The stitching is going to sort of bond it all together. So I'm just rolling out my lovely little mat here, smoothing it down, open up my batting, my wadding a little bit more, spray, nice and gently, roll it down, move it up. There we are, that's the last little bit. You don't need a lot of spray. A can like this should last you quite some time. There we go. So I've now got my backing attached to my patchwork front. Isn't it so pretty? I can't get over how pretty it is. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over. Just going to flip it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push with my hands on the backing. First of all, it bonds that glue again, but also it makes sure that it's really smooth, that there's no wrinkles. If you're doing this with a massive quilt, it will take some time to do all this, and start from the middle and push it out. And if you've laid it down nicely, if everything is lovely and pressed, do a little bit of spraying at a time. You shouldn't have too much bother. So there is our backing now attached to our front. Okay. But of course I'm going to trim it down. So again, as I said before, I want an inch. So I'm going to measure an inch from the side of my patchwork out, because I want that backing to be 1 inch wider, as I keep saying, but it's good to keep repeating. And then we're going to quilt it. But we're just doing a simple crosshatch. We've got the squares, we might as well use them. So using the 1 inch line on my ruler, and that's just about spot on anyway. Just use that to trim your fabric away. And this has to be fairly accurate, because we're going to use that backing as our binding, which is really nice. We haven't done that before, so it's really nice to tackle something new. I'll just get my ruler the right way up, and just looking at the line of your ruler with your fabric, and then turn. You can just about see what I'm doing, I'm sure. I'll bring it closer towards me. There we go. So my 1 inch line is going on my patchwork, and the edge of my ruler is on my backing, if you like. And that is just about spot on. Now all the measurements for everything you need is in the pattern. If you don't want to use patchwork pieces like I've done, then you can do a solid piece of fabric, and let's just move that slightly, and you can, I'm just going to move this piece of fabric, it's not quite how I want it to be, so I'm just ungluing that. And there we go. So you can use a solid piece of fabric if you want to. you don't have to do this patchwork, but I thought it'd be quite nice as a lovely sort of springtime project. That is absolutely spot on. Just a few little fraying pieces. And again, on this long edge here, this is the shorter side. So it's nice to actually make a matching set for the sewing machine cover and the sewing machine mat. I think you'll like doing those. And they're not difficult. I think I've made the cover a 2-star, and the bag, the flora, is definitely a 3-star because there's lots of techniques in that. Good. So at least you've seen just how I would trim that up, just to make sure it's 1 inch wider all the way around. So if I hold that up, I'll hold up half so you can see that looks absolutely gorgeous. So we're ignoring the fact that it's wider. We don't want to do anything more with that backing whatsoever. Like I say, just make sure you've straightened it out and you've smoothed it out. So the next thing to do is to do the quilting. Now, I'm going to do it by eye. You may not be so brave. Now, if that's the case, all you want to do is to use a heat erasable, water erasable, chalk pen, something that you're going to be able to wash out or rub out or iron out, okay? And what you can do is that you can take your ruler and you can go diagonally across your piece, points to points, make sure you're going through all the points, and you can draw your lines. So if I wanted to, I could draw my line on here. Let's just do that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but we'll do it. Now, because the edges don't have seams, you want to pretend they have, because we want to make sure that the points of the patchwork, the quilting that we're doing, ends up being a diamond, a really lovely point. If you were to go from the edge of the fabric to the other edge of the fabric, you'll end up with a squared off point. So we want to make sure that you've got that point where the seam would be once you put the binding on. Now I'll show you on close-up camera in a minute what I mean by that. So if I draw the lines, and in the pattern actually there's quite a good picture of this, and I'm just going to do it the other way because then I can show you what I'm talking about. So your seam allowance as normal is 1/4 inch. I'm going to draw that in so it's obvious. So you can see, if I hold that up, you see where the line is there. So you could draw all your lines in and then stitch on those lines, okay? But if you're brave, you can just eyeball it going all the way across, and that's what I'll do in a sec. If we come to the side camera, I want you to have a look at that, and you can just about see that where my lines cross over is not here, it's 1/4 inch in, and that means that when you stitch it, when you stitch the binding on, it'll show a point. It won't show a blunt point, if you see what I mean. So that's how you're going to do it, and actually that picture is shown in the pattern just in case you forget. So let's bring the machine in. Like I said, I've already got my walking foot on, which is great. And I'm literally going to just go from point to point, not forgetting that 1/4 inch. I won't say it too many times, I promise. And then just go across your work. And if you do go a little bit wriggly, don't worry. Now all of these ends you're going to see, okay? They're not buried in a seam, you're going to see them. Now with that in mind, you could do 1 or 2 little back stitches at the start and the finish of each line of stitching, or you can just start with a regular stitch, no back stitch, and just cut the threads off like I've just done. If you want a super duper duper neat job, then you could take the threads through and knot them and tie them off, but you will see all of that stitching because we're using the backing as the binding. We're just bringing it through. so you will see it. So you could, like I said, start off with a little back stitch if you want. So if I hold my thread so it doesn't get tangled, I'm just literally doing one stitch. I'm not too worried about this actually. You may well be. I want you to do what is right for you, okay? If this is going to be a gift, then maybe you want to just do that one back stitch. Just like that, literally one stitch. It will certainly save your threads unraveling and having little sort of threads showing. And just be careful about your ends. If they may well get sort of knotted underneath, in which case you might want to keep your threads long, don't have a thread cutter like mine, and stitch them in. Have you ever wondered what the Gold Club is all about? So many people message me, what is the Gold Club? Okay, simply it's my online sewing group, okay, mainly based on Facebook, where we have a bit of a natter every day. We do Facebook Lives and make all sorts of things. But if you go to my website, lizzycurtis.com, you'll see a Join Gold tab on the top there. And all that means is that you click on that, and you buy it. So for £5, which in dollars is about $6.30, depending on exchange rates and times, you will get 3 patterns every month. I know, it's mad. If you look at the price of my patterns in the shop, generally they're now $4.99. The value of the Gold Club online membership at this point in time is just £5 a month. So you're getting the 3 free patterns every month, and they're all made by me, designed for you. Easy, moderate, fairly difficult. Then we have the Facebook to back that up all as well, the Facebook group. So we have a wonderful time in there. We're all great friends. So if you want to join a great online sewing community, join Lizzy's Gold Club. So we'll just carry on. So we've done all our diagonal stripes going one way with our stitching. We're now going to turn the quilt and do the other diagonal stitching now. So I've got 2 more rows to do, and then we've done the quilting. And in real time, it takes 10 minutes. Last one. So you can see also how I'm supporting my quilt. If you're lucky enough to have a table where your machine drops down and it's flat with your table, wonderful, wish I did. If you haven't, you may well have an extension table that you can use to support your quilt, or a little patchwork piece. But I roll it up and I'll hold it if necessary to support the weight, so it doesn't distort the stitching when I'm doing a lovely straight stitch on the machine. So there we are, we've done all the quilting now. It looks amazing. Don't forget, when you go through the points in the four corners, you're actually going through the point, whereas on the sides we're doing that sort of crossover V. In the corners you actually are going into that point. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to I'm going to iron it, because I've still got my pen marks on there from where where I showed you where you can actually stitch, that you can draw in if you think that's going to be useful to you. So I'm going to actually iron those away so it's not distracting. But also it's nice to give it a little iron and a press before you go on to the next stage. And we'll need the iron to actually then do the backing, to make the backing into the binding. So I'll keep the iron out. So we'll just get rid of those blue lines because they're distracting. And the thing about, if you've used a heat erasable pen and you're worrying about ghosting, don't be. First of all, most of the time it will wash out, but also you're stitching on that line, so you're not going to see any form of ghosting. I mean, if you did draw lines and you changed your mind, then there is a possibility that you might see it. But generally, you're going to be drawing where you're stitching, which makes absolute sense, doesn't it? So there we are. I just love it. Right, so that's all quilted, and maybe you can see the quilting on there. If I turn it over to the back, you can certainly see it a lot better there. If I hold it up to the light, you can see it, so that's lovely. And I love how that sort of check fabric looks. So what we'll have to do now is go onto the side camera so you can see how to do this backing. It's really a lot easier than perhaps you think. So I'll just position it on my mat so you can see it. There we go. You'll need pins or clips, it doesn't matter which. I do prefer clips because they're not quite so dangerous. So if I get that in a little bit better like that, you'll be able to see. So the first thing you're going to do on this side piece here, you're going to fold that in. Now, because we've cut this to ½ an inch, sorry, I beg your pardon, to an inch, this folded part will be ½ an inch, okay? So we'll just fold that over. To be honest, even if that was 3/4 of an inch, a quarter of an inch, whatever it is, it's going to be half. So that raw edge there has been folded over and pressed so it meets the raw edge of my quilt. Okay, and the next thing is to obviously fold it over again. When I say obviously, that is the next stage. Okay, you're going to fold it over again. Again, you're just going to crease that with your iron or finger press it. I'm going to put a couple of little clips there just to hold. Okay, so now you've got that folded part there and that looks amazing. So this little corner here, this outside corner here where my finger is, that's going to be folded diagonally across to this raw edge here. So I'm just going to fold it up like that. Okay, now you might want to pop a pin there just to hold it. You know, you're going to work out what's best for you. If I find a pin, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like. And in actual fact, in the pattern piece itself, it does actually show you a step-by-step pictures on all of this part here. So it shows you the folding part, it shows you this part where you're making a diagonal, and then it shows you can see the pin. So the next thing to do is actually then fold this up that ½ an inch again. So I'm going to have to get my pin out of the way in a sec, but what I'm going to do is just hold that there so you can see that I'm just folding that edge up that ½ an inch. I'm going to remove my pin. So it's just the same as the other side. You're putting raw edges to raw edges. Give that a little press so it looks like that. And then you're going to fold it again so you're hiding your raw edges. And then this comes up to meet the other side and it makes that mitre corner. You just need to perhaps manipulate it a little bit to make that happen. That is not ideal what I've got there, but when you do it, you'll see how beautiful it looks. I'm just going to put a clip there to hold it. I'll just catch the tip. There we go. And like I say, you're folding that edge over, and that's how it's going to look. So if I tip that up, and I could do with just adjusting that slightly, which I might do when you've had a look at that. So I knew that would. Let me put a pin in there, and then you'll be able to see what that looks like there. Like I say, I'm going to just adjust that slightly when I'm stitching it, but that's what it should look like. And you've got a lovely mitre going across there, and which looks amazing on the little quilt top when you've done. And of course this method could be used on a really big size quilt, and it just makes for a really neat corner. And what you're going to do is you're going to top stitch all the way round. Now because the backing has come through to the front, the top stitching where it's placed on the back doesn't matter at all. Okay, it's how it looks on the front. And the front, because you're doing it you're stitching from the front, will be absolutely perfect. Now what you could do is go around the entire piece, ironing, pressing, pinning, putting your clips in. I'll leave that to you, how confident you are. You might well want to baste it all the way around as well before you top stitch, but you know me, I'm just going to go for it. So I take all my clips out except the first two, and we'll bring the machine in. Now I'm going to keep my walking foot on. I'm not that bothered about a walking foot. A lot of people are. I mean, they do make a good job for keeping all your layers correctly positioned, but sometimes I prefer not to use it. I find it a bit clumsy. So again, all your ends are going to show because everything is on show with this little quilt top, this little mat, whatever you want to call it. So again, you might want to leave long threads so you can stitch those into your work. It depends how fussy you're going to be with this. It depends who it's for. If it's for you, you might just want to do your regular back stitches, 1 or 2, no more than 1 or 2, so it doesn't look clumsy, or none at all. And then when you come round to where you started, just go over those stitches by 3 or 4 stitches, and that should do it. So again, you could use a guide on your foot, on your walking foot, whatever foot you're using, so you're going to stitch exactly the same all the way around, but we're just going to kind of go for it. If you can keep your needle down when you stop, that's absolutely brilliant, because it helps you, it's kind of like a third hand, and it helps you keep your fabric still. Now the other thing, a little sort of tip, is when you get to these corners and you're sort of doing the diagonal fold and then you're folding again, that's a lot of fabric to keep under control. So this is where I would use a stiletto or a quick unpick, pair of scissors. I'm just trying to find something that I can use handy, which I can never find anything. I've got all the tools, no idea where they are. Oh, here we go, I've got a quick unpick. So I can use the point of my quick unpick to hold that corner in place, and just make sure when you're stitching that your stitches catch that corner, and just hold your sort of quick unpick till the very last moment. Your foot is going to hold the fabric near to the needle, so you don't need to go right up to the needle with your quick unpick or your tool, stiletto, whatever you're going to use, but it's there to assist you. It's a third hand. So again, pivot around that corner there, and then we're just going to keep on stitching. And this makes such a lovely, neat job. So don't forget that 1/2 inch, and you'll get to the point where you know what that 1/2 inch looks like, and you won't need to measure necessarily. It really is, this gingham with this check fabric is just absolutely beautiful, really is. I'm so pleased with it. I like the pinks, I like the blues, but you could have anything you like, anything you like. Depends what mood you're in. I'm thinking spring, so this would be just glorious. And with the backing fabric, you want to consider that you're going to see it on the back of the pockets and on the binding. So just coming up to that second corner, so I'm going to finger press those folds. Do you remember we did those first folds? I'm going diagonally across now. All of this is in the pattern, so please look at the pictures. So I've gone diagonally across, I'm finger pressing, and then I'm just lifting up that 1/2 inch, folding that over to make the most perfect mitre corner. Again, I'm just going to use my quick unpick just to poke that fabric and keep that in place. And like I say, there'll come a point where the needle of your machine now has captured all of those layers together. So pivot and turn. Don't forget to do your 1/2 inch. Like I say, you'll probably want to press this. So you're pressing your 1/2 inch towards your raw edge, so your raw edges together, and folding over again. There we go. So I'm just coming up to the stitches where I started. And like I said, you could, if you wanted to, find my scissors, is instead of doing a back stitch when you start and stop, you can just go over those stitches. 3 or 4 stitches is enough. So just coming up to it now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Break my threads, and that's me stitched all the way around. Now what you will have when you sort of look at your little sort of quilt top is that you will probably have threads all the way around where you've done the V's, and they just need you know, sort of cutting off, trimming, neatening off. If you've opted to leave long ends, then you may want to stitch all of those in. Like I said, it depends who this is for and really what standard you're trying to achieve. That's entirely up to you. I'm quite happy with what I've done here. It's absolutely fine. And when we look at, if I sort of have a look at my corners, sort of go all the way along, see if I'm happy with what I've done, and they're all beautifully mitered. And you can see if we go to this side camera here, you'll be able to see what that looks like. I'll try and hold that straight. So you can see that we've got this lovely mitered corner here. Really, really crispy. And you've got your top stitching going along there. And if we turn it over, you can see the V's in the back here. You can just about see them. And there's a few sort of ends there, which all I'm going to do, because I did a back stitch, just one back stitch with each one, there's just a little end there that needs trimming. And I think you'll see that that is a lovely neat job. Really nice. So all we've got to do now is make the pockets. Now I've opted on mine to do 2 squares and 1 square at the end. And the 1 square at the end is purposely made at that side because I can put, I'm not sure I ever want to put scissors in these pockets, but if you had something that might dig into your leg, for instance, I've got a crochet hook and turning tools and all sorts in the end there. Maybe it's better at that end so you don't catch your leg with it. Here we can have quilting clips. We could have reels of cotton in here. That could be full of clips. We could have reels of cotton in there, or spare spools or bobbins, that sort of thing. Things that aren't going to catch your legs and damage you, basically. So you just need to decide now which end you're going to lose the patchwork on, because whichever end you decide, and it's the end with the 5 squares, not the 6 squares, you're just going to fold these up and make your pockets. And quite honestly, I do like the plain. I don't know about you, but I like the plain. So I might keep that out, because when we turn this over to make the pockets, you'll lose it. Okay, you'll lose it. Oh, it's one of those decisions time. You see, you're going to lose 2 rows really in effect, aren't you? But I like those plains. So I'm going to put my pockets on this end here. So if I show you, I'll just put that slightly, and I'll put a pin in. So this is going to be, I'm going to hold this up so you can see, and you want to stitch where your on the sides where you have top stitched. So you're just going over those top stitching lines. You're not making separate lines. You're not going right up to the edges. I'll show you in a sec on the side camera. And you want to put the edge right up to the sort of seam line of your patchwork, basically. Let me just pop a pin in there. I've just sort of put this one on in gung-ho and I haven't looked at it at all, so that's better. You can make them deeper if you want to. It's quite a generous size mat, so it's up to you. So if we do 1, 2 squares, bring that up, pop a pin in, and then 1, 2 again, pop a pin in, put it on the line of the stitching. Like I say, I want to trim my threads, but I can do this afterwards. You don't need to see me do that. So if I turn this around, there we are, that's what it looks like. It does look pretty. So you can see where I've got my pins. So I've got my pin here, and you can see it's on the top stitch line, and that's where I'm going to stitch. I'm not going to stitch this edge. There's that no point. And then I'm just going to stitch on this line down here. That's my one pocket here at the end. The line here, the line there, and again on the top stitching line there. So it's dead easy. And I would make sure that you do a really good secure couple of back stitches so your pockets don't come undone. So I'm going to start off at the fold and then come up to the edge of my piece. Still got my walking foot on, but I'll leave that on now. It's too late. And your machine should be able to go through all of those layers fine. So, nice back stitch to start off with, but that's the bottom of the pocket, and that doesn't need that strength. It's when we come up to the top. So we're just coming up to the top of the pocket now. Take the pin out. Make sure your edges are lined up. So nice 2 or 3 good strong back stitches there to hold. And then we're just whipping along to this side here, making sure that it's all lined up beautifully. You can look at your squares underneath, and you can actually, what you can do is on the quilting you could go from point to point, and I'm going to be a bit of a rebel and not do that, but I'm coming up to the point here, so let's just get that lined up. Nice back stitch. So I'm going to turn this around so I haven't got so much bulk going underneath the throat of my machine. I normally like going from the fold up to the pocket, but I'll make an exception in this case. So as long as you've got it all lined up, and we've got the walking foot on, so nothing should move. So again, line everything up. Don't forget your back stitch. Make it nice and strong. Get it so it's really squared up to your machine. And you're coming down to the point of your quilting, or just before that. And then again on the side we're doing the back stitches, nice and strong, and down that top stitch line. And that way you won't see the stitching on the sides. And that is so pretty, I can't tell you. You need to see it in real life. Really pretty. Right, so I would now go around this whole piece and start trimming those threads. Certainly if we needed to, we can stitch them in, all that sort of thing. But what you've got there is a lovely, lovely little mate. Look at that, isn't it gorgeous? And you can see the quilting on there, see how it looks. It really sort of makes the fabric stand out a little bit. You've got your pockets in there as well. And the ones next to you are nice and safe. The one on the end, the smaller one, if you want to put scissors in there, it's small enough for them to stand up and be fine in there. Let's have a look. I've just got my smaller ones in there. They're fine. And they're away from your legs because it's on the far right-hand side. but it will certainly be really, really comfy to have near you. It's the softest thing ever. And of course, if you want to make it in a solid piece of fabric, you could. There's no reason why not. I just fancied doing this in a beautiful 5-inch patchwork. Sometimes we have charm packs lying around not having a clue what to do with them. Well, that's a good way of using them up, and it's so pretty. And now I've got a pink one and I've got a blue one. And then of course we will do the pink one of the machine cover as well in another video. So there we are. So there is our lovely Frankie. It's a really easy make. It's a 1-star rating. It's a downloadable pattern on my website, lizzycurtis.com. So hop along there and have a look. There may be another pattern in there that you might like the look of as well. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy making Frankie, and I hope you make loads.